On a hot August night in 1997, in the small town of Riverside, Ohio, a 6-month-old baby disappeared from her crib without making a sound. No broken glass, no note left behind, no sign anyone even came in. Just an open window, a soft, glowing nightlight, and a family torn apart forever. For 25 years, neighbors talked, police looked everywhere, and life kept going. But the mystery of little Emma Rose Hartley, the baby who vanished into thin air, never went away, never stopped haunting the people who loved her most. If you think missing person cases always end the same way, you're wrong. Riverside sat along the Little Miami River in southwest Ohio, a quiet place, really. A town of maybe 8,000 people where summer nights smelled like fresh cut grass, and barbecue smoke coming from every backyard porch you could see around. Families knew each other. Kids rode bikes down the street without helmets on their heads. And the high school football games packed the bleachers every Friday night like clockwork. Life here moved slow, steady, safe in all the ways that mattered to people. If something bad happened, it was usually just a fender bender downtown maybe, or neighbors arguing over where the property line was supposed to go between yards. People here didn't just know their neighbors, they actually trusted them with everything. That trust would break on one August night in a way nobody saw coming. The Hartley family lived in a simple 2-story house on Maple Street back then. White paint on the outside, a front porch with hanging flower baskets swinging. Michael Hartley was 34, taught history at the high school down the road. He was quiet, gentle, the kind of guy who coached junior varsity basketball after school. His wife Jennifer was 29, worked part-time as a nurse at the clinic nearby. She spent her days taking care of patients and chasing their 3-year-old son, Tyler. Emma Rose had come along in February, a surprise baby girl with blonde hair and bright blue eyes that looked like the sky on a clear spring morning. To everyone on the block who waved from their driveways each morning, the Hartleys seemed perfect. Hard workers, friendly people, the kind of family you'd want living next door always. That Tuesday had been hot and sticky like most August days in Ohio, really. Michael taught summer school until 3, then came home to find Jennifer and Tyler playing. In the sprinkler while Emma napped inside her crib upstairs peacefully and quietly. When evening came, they ate dinner on the porch together as a family. Grilled chicken and corn, Tyler getting butter all over his face and hands. Michael fed Emma her bottle around 7:30, rocking her slow and gentle as she fell. Asleep with her tiny fingers wrapped tight around his thumb like always before. He put her down in the nursery, pulled the pink blanket up to her chin, checked that the window was locked tight before walking out of the room carefully. On the dresser, a small nightlight shaped like a bunny glowed soft and yellow, making gentle shadows dance on the walls covered with clouds and rainbows everywhere. The room smelled like baby powder and lavender, a smell Jennifer loved so much. Later that night, with Tyler asleep and the house finally quiet for once, Jennifer poured herself some iced tea and sat down on the couch, tired. Michael sat next to her, flipping through TV channels, slow and bored-looking. They talked about normal stuff. Tyler's preschool coming up soon, the faucet upstairs leaking. The kind of boring talk that fills the space when you're too tired to think. Around 10:30, they went upstairs together, checked on Tyler first, who was sleeping, sprawled out on his bed with his stuffed dinosaur held tight in his arms. Then they looked in on Emma, saw her little shape barely visible under the blanket, her chest going up and down in that peaceful way babies sleep so deep. Jennifer smiled, pulled the door halfway shut, whispered goodnight into the dark room. They didn't know then, but that was the last time they'd see their daughter. For the next 25 years of their lives spent searching and waiting patiently. The night outside was thick with humidity that made everything feel heavy and wet. Crickets sang loud from the bushes lining the yard like they did every night. A dog barked once from 2 streets over, then went quiet again, completely. The whole town slept under stars you could barely see through the summer haze. Nothing seemed wrong. Nothing felt off. Nothing suggested what was about to happen next. Somewhere between midnight and 3 in the morning, while everyone in Riverside slept peaceful, something happened that nobody heard, nobody saw, nobody could explain even later on. The nursery window that had been locked just hours before stood open now. About 6 inches wide, letting in the hot night air from outside slowly. The screen had been taken off carefully and leaned against the wall down below. The pink blanket lay bunched up in the corner of the crib, all alone. The nightlight still glowed its soft yellow color, but Emma Rose was completely gone. At 6:15 in the morning, Jennifer woke up to Tyler's voice calling from the hallway. "Mommy, I'm hungry," he said, rubbing his eyes with his small fists sleepily. She got up, tied her robe, walked past Emma's room and stopped without thinking. Something felt wrong, though she couldn't say what exactly it was right then. The door was open wider than she remembered leaving it last night for sure. She pushed it all the way open, thinking Emma would still be sleeping peacefully. The crib was empty, sheets messed up, the window open letting morning air in. Jennifer's breath caught in her throat, her brain refusing to understand what she saw. She stepped closer, thinking maybe Emma had rolled out somehow, fallen behind the crib. But the floor was empty, nothing there at all, no sign of her baby. "Michael!" she screamed, her voice breaking the quiet morning into a million pieces. The sound was raw, filled with the kind of fear that comes from something unnatural. He was downstairs making coffee, dropped the mug when he heard her scream like that. It smashed on the floor, coffee spreading out in a dark pool everywhere. He ran up the stairs 3 at a time, found her standing frozen in the doorway, one hand pressed against her mouth, the other hand pointing at the empty crib. "Where is she?" he asked, though the question didn't make sense yet, really. Jennifer shook her head. Couldn't form words that would make this real somehow. Michael rushed to the crib, threw back the blanket, checked under it like crazy, like Emma might have fallen through the mattress into some other place, maybe. He checked the closet, behind the door, even in the toy basket, looking everywhere. Nothing. No sign of her anywhere in the room at all, not one trace. "Call 911, he said, his voice shaking now with panic rising fast inside him. Jennifer stumbled to the phone in their bedroom, her hands shaking so bad she could. Barely dialed the numbers right on the first 2 tries before finally getting it. "My baby," she said when the dispatcher answered, calm and professional, like they're trained. "My baby's gone. Someone took her. Please help us right now." The dispatcher asked questions, keeping her voice steady, getting information fast and clear. "How old is the baby? When did you last see her? Any sign someone? Broke in anywhere that you noticed in the house?" Jennifer answered through tears, words coming out fast and jumbled up together. Michael was back downstairs checking every room like crazy, calling Emma's name even though. He knew a 6-month-old baby couldn't answer back or come crawling toward his voice. Within 10 minutes, 2 cop cars showed up with sirens loud and wailing, cutting through the morning quiet that Riverside always counted on for feeling safe here. Neighbors came out onto their porches in bathrobes, faces confused and worried both. Mrs. Patterson from next door walked over, her hand pressed to her chest tight. "What happened?" she asked, her voice thin with fear she couldn't hide well at all. "Is everyone okay over here? I heard Jennifer scream from inside my house." A cop guided her back to her property gently. promised they'd tell her more soon. Officers moved fast through the house, checking every room, every closet, every single space, where a 6-month-old baby might be hiding or might have crawled to somehow. They found nothing. No sign of Emma anywhere inside the house at all. One officer stood in the nursery, looking at the window, the screen outside leaning. "This wasn't random," he said to his partner, standing next to him close now. "Someone planned this out, knew what they were doing, took their sweet time." Detective Robert Walsh showed up shortly after, a guy in his 50s with gray hair, and a good reputation for doing thorough work that people respected around the county. He stood in the nursery, studied the open window, the screen propped outside carefully, the crib with its messed-up blanket still holding the faint shape of weight. "No forced entry," he said quiet to his partner standing beside him close. "Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing here last night." He bent down, looked at the windowsill, the paint chips on the floor. Jennifer sat on the couch downstairs, Tyler hanging onto her side, confused and scared. "Where's Emma?" he kept asking in his little voice full of confusion that hurt. "Where's my sister? I want to see her now, Mommy. Please let me." She couldn't answer, just held him tighter as tears ran down her face, silent. Our community of families dealing with missing loved ones knows that moment too well. The moment when you realize your whole world just changed and nothing will ever be the same again, no matter how hard you pray or wish otherwise. Michael walked around the living room, answering the same questions over and over for cops. "What time did you put her to bed? Did you hear anything weird? Any strangers around the neighborhood lately that you noticed hanging around here?" He said the same answers each time, the details staying the same. But his voice, getting rougher with each time he had to say it all again as reality hit. "I checked the window," he kept saying, his voice desperate for them to believe him. "I know I checked it. I always check it before leaving her room every night." Detective Walsh believed him, could see the real fear and confusion in his eyes. By 8 o'clock, the street was packed with cop cars and news vans everywhere. Yellow tape went across the front yard. Reporters stood at the edge of the property. Cameras pointed at the house like weapons ready to fire. Microphones ready to catch grief. The story spread fast, baby taken from Riverside home, and by noon, it was on. Every TV screen in Ohio, then all across the country as the big networks grabbed it. If you've ever felt that sinking feeling when something precious just disappears without a trace, you know the Hartley's terror was just beginning that morning in August, really. Detective Walsh got search teams going right away, people flooding in from nearby towns. They looked through backyards, checked old empty buildings, walked along the river calling Emma's name. Even though they knew a 6-month-old couldn't answer or come running back home. Dogs were brought in, given Emma's blanket to smell, but the trail just stopped. At the edge of the property where the street started, like a car had been there. By evening, the FBI joined in, set up a command post at the community center, where bake sales usually happened on weekends, and nothing serious ever went down, really. Agent Lisa Martinez, someone who knew about baby kidnapping cases, led the FBI team there. She sat across from Jennifer and Michael in a small room, alone and private. "We're going to find her," she said firm, her voice steady and sure-sounding. "But I need you to tell me everything. Doesn't matter how small it seems." Jennifer told her about the day, the evening, putting Emma down to sleep that night. Michael talked about checking the window lock, not hearing anything weird during the night. Agent Martinez listened close, writing notes, her face not showing what she was thinking, when she asked if they had enemies, anyone who might want to hurt the family. Both shook their heads, confused and shocked at the question being asked of them. "We're just teachers and nurses," Michael said quiet, his voice breaking a little now. "We don't have anything anyone would want from us here. Nothing at all, really." But someone had wanted Emma, and that someone had planned it out careful and smart. By the third day, tips kept coming in from all over the country fast. A baby seen in a car at a rest stop in Indiana, someone reported. Another one at a grocery store in Kentucky. A woman acting weird with a baby. Every lead got checked out. Everyone turned into nothing. Just more disappointment again. The Hartleys went on TV. Jennifer's face pale and tired, eyes red from crying. Michael's hand holding hers tight as they made their plea together on camera. "Please," Jennifer whispered, her voice barely loud enough to hear through all the emotion. "If you have our daughter, just bring her home safe to us right now." The cameras caught everything, the desperate hope, the unbearable weight of not knowing anything. And across the whole nation, people watched, hearts breaking for a family they'd never met. In living rooms and kitchens everywhere, moms held their own babies a little tighter that night. Dads checked window locks twice, 3 times, couldn't shake the fear rising up. That what happened to the Hartleys could happen to them too. That nowhere was safe. Riverside itself changed in those first days. The innocent feeling ripped away hard. Parents walked kids to bus stops now, something they'd never done before here ever. Doors that had stayed unlocked forever suddenly got deadbolts put in overnight quick. The town that thought it was a safe place learned the hard way. That nowhere is really safe. That bad things can find you anywhere you are. And in the house on Maple Street, a porch light got turned on that night. That would stay burning steady for the next 25 years without stopping once. By the end of the first week, the investigation had taken over Riverside completely. The community center stayed packed with people answering phones, putting together search parties every day. Flyers with Emma's face went up on every telephone pole, every store window, every gas station. Her blonde hair, blue eyes, and that 6-month-old smile staring out from thousands of pages. Jennifer and Michael barely left the house, just sat by the phone, waiting constantly. Every ring made their hearts race. Every knock on the door brought a second of hope. Then crushing disappointment when it was just another reporter or a neighbor bringing food. Detective Walsh put together a timeline, marking down every minute from when Emma went to bed. Until the moment Jennifer found the empty crib that morning clear as day. The window was narrow, somewhere between midnight and 3 in the morning for sure. Michael had been asleep. Jennifer too. Tyler hadn't woken up across the hall at all. Nobody in the neighborhood said they heard a car, saw headlights, or noticed anything. Weird during those hours when everything changed forever for this family here. The forensics team dusted for fingerprints, found only ones that belonged to the family. The window lock had been messed with from outside, scratches visible on the metal frame. But whoever did it wore gloves, left no prints, no DNA, nothing at all. The screen had been taken off carefully, without making noise somehow, set down gently. It looked like someone who knew what they were doing. Someone practiced and calm. Agent Martinez looked at similar cases from across the country, searching for patterns that matched. Baby kidnappings were rare, but not unheard of, usually done by women who couldn't have. Kids themselves, driven by desperation, or some kind of delusion to take someone else's baby. But most of those cases ended quick. The baby found within days or hours usually. Emma's case was different, colder, more planned out than the usual profile showed clearly. The media coverage got intense as days turned into weeks without any answers coming. National news picked up the story, making Emma's face known across America right away. Talk shows talked about the case. Crime experts broke down the evidence on TV. Some pointed fingers at the parents, like they always do in cases like this, sadly. Why didn't they hear anything? One TV host asked during a show, sounding doubtful. How does someone take a baby from a house without waking anyone up at all? The hint was ugly and stuck around, despite there being no proof of anything wrong. Jennifer stopped watching the news after that, couldn't stand the accusations hidden in questions. The suspicion wrapped up in fake concern that felt like knives cutting slow and deep. She pulled back into herself, only spoke when she had to, moved through the house, like a ghost of who she used to be before all this happened to them. Michael tried to shield her from the worst of it all, but the whispers reached them. In the grocery store, at the gas station, even at church on Sunday mornings sometimes, people who'd known them for years suddenly looked at them different now, changed somehow, with pity mixed with doubt, with sympathy that had suspicion they couldn't quite hide fully. Detective Walsh never changed his mind about the Hartleys being victims here, though. He'd talked to them for hours, watched how they acted, studied their body language closely. Lie detector tests were given to both parents, just standard stuff in cases like this. Both passed without any red flags showing up in the results at all clearly. They didn't do this, he told his boss firm when pressure came down from above. To look at them harder, push them more, find something that would close this fast. Someone took that baby, and we need to find out who it was for real. But without leads, without any evidence, the case started to go cold despite everyone trying. By the end of the first month, the FBI command post got taken down quiet. Agent Martinez went back to her office in Cincinnati, left the local cops in charge. The volunteers stopped showing up every day, the reporters moved on to other stories, and the Hartleys were left alone with their grief and questions that had no answers. Jennifer went back to work part-time because they needed the money, though her mind was never there. She'd stop mid-sentence during her rounds, staring at nothing, remembering Emma's face so clear. The way she'd smile when she woke up in the mornings, the sound of her laugh. That was just starting to come out before she got taken away from them. Michael went back to teaching that fall, standing in front of his students saying things about history, while his own life felt stuck in August forever, never moving forward. His co-workers were nice, gave him space, didn't ask questions they knew he couldn't answer. Tyler started preschool that September, too young to really understand why his sister never came home. He'd ask sometimes, his little voice innocent and confused about it all still. "Where's Emma, Mommy? When is she coming back to play with me here?" Jennifer would hold him close, couldn't answer, couldn't lie or tell the full truth either. She'd read him stories at bedtime, her voice steady but her eyes far away and sad. The first year passed like a slow nightmare they couldn't wake up from no matter what. Every milestone Emma should have hit, her first birthday, first steps, first words spoken, became a reminder of what was missing, of time moving on without her here with them. They kept her nursery exactly how it was, the crib still made up nice and neat. The pink blanket folded on the dresser, the nightlight still glowing yellow every single night. Jennifer would sit in the rocking chair sometimes, holding Emma's favorite stuffed rabbit close, breathing in the fading smell of baby powder that still clung to the fabric somehow. Michael couldn't go in the room without feeling his chest get tight with grief so heavy. It hurt to breathe, hurt to remember, hurt to keep living when part of him died. That August night, along with his daughter, he'd never get to see grow up at all. Detective Walsh checked in regular, called with updates even when there was nothing new to say. "We haven't forgotten her," he'd say quiet, his voice sincere and steady like always. "The case is still open, still active in our minds and hearts every day here." But Jennifer knew what that really meant, that they had no new leads coming in. that Emma had become another cold case file sitting in a drawer somewhere forgotten. The second year brought a different kind of pain, the pain of acceptance creeping in slow. Against their will, the reality settling deep in their bones that Emma might never come back. Jennifer stopped setting Emma's place at the table, a small surrender that broke her inside. Michael packed away some of the baby clothes, though he couldn't bring himself to donate them. Or throw them away completely, they went into boxes up in the attic instead. Tyler stopped asking about his sister out loud, though sometimes he'd mention her during play. Emma would like this, he'd say about a toy or game, talking about her like she was just in another room waiting to come join them any minute now. Years went by, each one taking a piece of hope with it, slow and steady. By Emma's 5th birthday, Jennifer had stopped baking cakes for her, stopped marking the day. With anything more than quiet tears, she'd cry alone in the bathroom while Michael pretended. Not to notice her red eyes at dinner that night, spent in total silence between them. Michael brought up moving once, starting fresh somewhere new without all the reminders here. But Jennifer refused hard, shaking her head firm whenever he mentioned it to her again. "What if she comes back?" she'd say, her voice thin but determined no matter what. "What if she's out there somewhere and finds her way home to us someday, maybe?" It didn't make sense. She knew that deep down, but she couldn't let go of the possibility that one day the doorbell would ring and Emma would be standing there. The porch light stayed on every single night, a beacon burning through the darkness outside. Neighbors noticed for sure, that steady glow year after year without fail ever stopping. The electric bill went up higher than it should, but Michael never complained once about it. Some people said it was a sign of hope. Others called it denial of reality staring. Them right in the face every day that Emma was gone forever and never coming back. But to Jennifer and Michael, it was simpler than all that, really. Just a promise kept. A light left on for a daughter who vanished one August night without any warning. When Emma would have been 10 years old, Jennifer finally joined an online support group. For families of missing kids, something she'd fought against for years before now, stubbornly. "It feels like giving up on her," she'd said when the idea first came up way back. "Like saying she's not coming home anytime soon or maybe ever at all, really." But the loneliness had become too much to carry, the weight of this grief alone crushing her. So she went online, found a group that met in chat rooms and message boards. The faces and names around the virtual circle were familiar in their pain, moms and dads. Who understood the special kind of hell that comes from not knowing anything for sure? One woman had been looking for her son for 15 years now without stopping ever. Another's daughter had disappeared walking to school and was never seen again after that. Each story was different, but the thread connecting them all was exactly the same thing. Hope mixed with despair, faith fighting with doubt, love that wouldn't die no matter what. Our community of people searching for missing loved ones understands something most people don't get. That waiting isn't passive, it's active, it's a choice you make every single morning. When you wake up and decide to keep hoping, even when it seems pointless. Jennifer rarely posted anything herself, mostly just read what others wrote, drew comfort from knowing. She wasn't the only one going through this nightmare alone in the dark, struggling. Detective Walsh retired in 2005 after 20 years on the force doing good work, handed Emma's case to a younger detective named Sarah Chen, who seemed sharp and dedicated. She called the Hartleys to introduce herself, promised to look at everything with fresh eyes. Jennifer listened polite, thanked her, but felt nothing. No hope, no expectations left inside. She'd heard these promises before too many times to count or remember them all clearly. By Emma's 15th birthday, The flyers had faded and disappeared from view completely now. The news coverage had stopped years back, the story forgotten by everyone except the people, who lived it every day, who carried it like a weight that never got lighter. Tyler was in high school now, a quiet kid who rarely talked about the sister. He barely remembered from that summer so long ago when he was just 3. Michael's hair had turned gray, his face lined with years of worry that showed plain. Jennifer looked older than her actual years, her eyes holding a sadness that never left them. They had learned to live around the hole, to work despite the emptiness inside. That Emma's disappearance had carved into their lives deep and permanent like a scar. The marriage survived, though barely at times when grief threatened to pull them completely apart. Into separate islands of pain, neither could reach across to help the other anymore. They went through the motions, did holidays for Tyler's sake, pretended things were normal. But they never stopped waiting. Never stopped wondering where she was or what had happened. Then in May 2022, 25 years after Emma vanished into the darkness that night forever, a woman named Sarah Bennett sat in her apartment in Portland, Oregon, all alone, staring at a DNA test kit she'd ordered online, just out of simple curiosity, really. She was 25 years old, had been adopted as a baby, always wondered about it, about her real family, where she came from, who she looked like for real. Her adoptive parents had been great, loving people who raised her right with care. But they'd both passed away years ago, leaving her with questions she'd never asked them. The adoption had been closed and private, done through some agency, in the Midwest somewhere. That didn't exist anymore according to records she'd tried to find before without any luck. She swabbed her cheek, sealed up the sample, mailed it off without expecting much, really. 6 weeks later, she got an email on her phone while she was at work. "Your DNA results are ready to look at now," the message said, simple and plain. She clicked the link, scrolled through the ancestry stuff, the genetic traits they listed out. Then she got to the part labeled DNA Relatives, showing matches with other users online. The first entry made her stop cold, her breath catching in her throat hard. "Close family match," it said in bold letters right there on the screen clearly. Probability: parent-child, 49.7% shared DNA found between you and this person here. The name next to it was Michael Hartley, Riverside, Ohio, the location listed out plain. Sarah stared at the screen, confused, her mind racing through possibilities fast and wild. She'd never heard that name before in her entire life, until this very moment right now. She clicked on his profile, saw a photo of a man in his 60s, looking kind, with gentle eyes and a smile that seemed somehow familiar to her in a weird way. The profile was empty, just the name and location, nothing else there at all, really. She sat back in her chair, her heart pounding hard, wondering what this all meant. The computer was rarely wrong about parent-child matches. The science was solid and proven true. But how could this man be her father when she'd been adopted at birth, clearly? She took a screenshot of the results quick, then did what anyone would do in 2022. Opened up Google and typed in Michael Hartley, Riverside, Ohio, looking for answers fast. The results that came up made her blood run cold, her hands shaking as she read. The headlines from 1997 about the missing baby, the investigation that went nowhere at all, the photos of a young couple holding a baby girl with blonde hair just like hers, and bright blue eyes that looked crazy, similar to her own baby pictures she kept. She read article after article, her brain struggling to understand what this all meant here. Could she really be Emma Rose Hartley, the baby who disappeared 25 years ago? The adoption papers said she was born in Oklahoma, placed right away at birth quickly. But adoptions could be fake, papers could lie, identities could get stolen or changed easy. She thought about her adoptive parents, both gone now, unable to answer any questions at all. They'd always been vague about the adoption details, said only it was private and legal. She'd never pushed it, never questioned them, trusted they'd told her everything she needed to know. Now she wondered what they really knew, what they'd been told, what they'd actually believed. By that evening, Sarah had made a decision that would change so many lives forever. She called the Riverside Police Department, her voice shaking as she tried to explain everything. "I think I might be Emma Hartley," she said to the cop who answered the phone. "I just got DNA results that match a man named Michael Hartley from there." There was a long pause on the line. Then the officer asked her to say it again, his tone shifting from normal to urgent real fast, like something big just happened right now. "Stay on the line," he said quick, already moving the call up through the system. Within a few hours, Detective Sarah Chen was on the phone with Sarah Bennett directly, her voice calm but serious, asking questions careful to check if this was real or not. "When were you born?" Chen asked, typing notes on her computer screen fast. "February 14th, 1997, Sarah answered, her voice steady despite her heart racing inside her chest. "That's Emma's birthday," Chen said quiet, the words hanging heavy in the air between them. "Where were you adopted from exactly? Which state and what agency handled it all?" Sarah gave her what little info she had from old papers she'd kept safe over the years. A private agency in Kansas City, Missouri, that shut down in 1999 for some reason. Papers that said her birth mom was someone who didn't want any contact ever with her. Everything had looked legit at the time to her adoptive parents, who'd trusted the system. Chen promised to look into it, to call the FBI, to run the DNA through the reel. Official databases to confirm it beyond just the commercial test Sarah had done at home. "Don't talk to the media yet," Chen warned her, gentle but firm about it clearly. "Let us check everything first before this becomes public knowledge everywhere fast." That night, Michael Hartley got a phone call that would change his whole life forever. Detective Chen's voice was careful, measured, as she explained what was going down right now. "Mr. Hartley, we've been contacted by a woman in Oregon who took a DNA test recently. It shows a parent-child match to the profile you put in our database years back." Michael sat down heavy, his hand gripping the phone so tight it actually hurt him. "What are you saying to me right now?" he asked, though he already knew the answer coming. "I'm saying we might have found Emma after all this time searching," Chen said soft, letting the words sink in slow before she kept going with more details about it. Michael couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what he was hearing from her at all. 25 years of waiting, of wondering, of hoping when it seemed crazy to keep hoping. And now this, a phone call in the dark that might change everything they'd known. He called Jennifer right away, his voice shaking as he tried to explain it all clear. She got to the house within 20 minutes, her face pale, eyes wide with shock. They sat together in the living room, the same room where they'd waited back in 1997, holding hands as Detective Chen walked them through what would happen next, step by step. Sarah's DNA would get tested official through the FBI lab in Quantico. The real deal. Compared to the samples the Hartleys had given decades ago for the missing persons database. The results would take a few weeks to come back, but Chen sounded hopeful based on what? The commercial test had already shown, with really high probability of them being related here. "What if it's not her, though?" Jennifer whispered, scared to hope after going so long without it. "What if it's another mistake, another dead end like all the times before this one?" Michael squeezed her hand, gentle, his voice rough but steady despite everything building up. "Then we keep waiting like we always have," he said quiet, words he'd said so many times. "But what if it really is her, Jen? What if she's finally coming home to us now?" The weeks that followed felt longer than the whole 25 years before them somehow really. Sarah agreed to give an official DNA sample, meeting with FBI agents in Portland who came. Who were nice and professional through the whole thing, treating her with respect and care. She'd taken time off from her job as a graphic designer, couldn't focus on anything else, couldn't think about anything except the chance that her whole identity was built on something. Fake. That she wasn't who she thought she was her entire life until this moment here. The adoption papers got looked at by experts who found problems with them right away fast. The agency that supposedly handled her adoption had been investigated back in 1998 for making up. Records and doing illegal adoptions across state lines for money before they got shut down. Several women had been arrested, but lots of cases stayed unsolved in the system's gaps. Sarah's birth certificate listed a hospital in Oklahoma City as her birthplace clearly enough there. But when people called to check, there was no record of her being born there at all. The hospital had nothing. No mom with that name, no delivery on that date, nothing at all. The puzzle pieces started fitting together, making a picture of lies and crime that went deep. Someone had taken Emma Hartley from her crib that August night back in 1997, clearly, and sold her through an illegal adoption ring to people who didn't know any better, really, who believed everything was legal and right, who paid big money for a baby they thought, had been given up by a mom who couldn't take care of her child the right way. In early June, the DNA results came back from the FBI lab official, and final now. Agent Martinez, retired now but called back to help with this one, gave the news out. To Detective Chen personally over the phone in the morning when light was just breaking outside. "It's a match," Martinez said, her voice thick with emotion she didn't usually show much. 99% certain. Sarah Bennett is Emma Rose Hartley without any doubt left at all. Chen called the Hartleys right away, didn't want them waiting another single minute longer. "We found her," she said simple when Michael picked up the phone at home. "Emma's alive, and she wants to meet you both real soon if you're ready for it." For the first time in 25 years, Jennifer Hartley cried tears that weren't from sadness, but from joy so big she couldn't even stand up, had to sit down hard. Michael held her close, his own tears falling quiet as they took in the impossible news. Their daughter, taken from them as a tiny baby, was alive somewhere across the country. She'd grown up, become a woman, lived a whole life they'd completely missed out on. But she was alive, and that was everything they'd been praying for all these long years. The meeting got set up for late June in a neutral spot, a conference room really, at the Riverside Police Department where this whole thing had started way back when. Sarah flew in from Portland, her stomach tight with nerves and fear and hope all mixed. She'd looked at photos of her biological parents now, studied their faces for hours trying. To see herself in their features, in how they smiled, in the way they carried themselves. When she walked into that room, time seemed to just stop completely for everyone there. Jennifer stood up slow, her hand pressed to her mouth, eyes filling up right away with tears. Sarah had her father's chin, her mother's eyes, the same blonde hair that Emma had. As a baby now long and pulled back in a simple ponytail that looked nice on her. "Hi," Sarah said soft, her voice unsure, not knowing what else to say first here, really. Michael stepped forward, then stopped himself, giving her space, letting her control how this went. "You look like your grandmother," he said quiet, his voice breaking on the words gentle. "My mother, she passed away years back, but she would have loved you so much." Jennifer couldn't speak at all, could only stare at the daughter she'd lost, now all grown up. Standing right there in front of her, real and alive and breathing in the same room finally. "I don't know what to call you," Sarah admitted honest, her hands held tight together. "I've been Sarah my whole life, but I know that's not the name you gave me." "It doesn't matter one bit," Jennifer said fast, finding her voice at last with effort showing. "You can be whoever you want to be, whoever you became without us there at all." "But you're still ours," Michael added soft, his eyes never leaving her face for a second. "You were always ours, even when we didn't know where you were out there somewhere." They talked for hours that first meeting, the conversation awkward at first, then getting easier slowly, and more natural as they found some rhythm in the weirdness of meeting after so long. Sarah told them about her childhood, her adoptive parents who'd loved her a lot, really. James had worked construction, Carol was a librarian, both gone now from sickness that took them. Too soon before she could ask the questions she needed answers to from them directly. The life she'd built in Oregon, the job she loved making designs for small businesses there. The friends who'd stood by her through this discovery that turned her whole world over. The Hartleys told her about the search that ate up years of their lives completely and fully. The years of hoping when everyone else had stopped, the porch light they'd kept burning bright. Every single night without fail, through all the decades that had passed them by slow. "We never stopped believing you'd come home to us," Jennifer said, her hand reaching out. Across the table shaky, and Sarah took it, their fingers wrapping together careful at first, then tighter. "Even when everyone else gave up, even when it seemed impossible, we kept believing somehow." Tyler came the next day, meeting the sister he'd lost when he was only 3 years old. He was 28 now, taught at a school like his dad, married to a woman named Amy, with a little daughter of his own named Lily, who'd never known the aunt taken before. She could grow up with them, or know them at all, really, in any way. "I barely remember you," he said honest when they met at the house together there. "But I remember Mom crying a lot, and Dad's face looking sad, and that empty room upstairs." Sarah nodded, understanding she'd been like a ghost in their lives all this time, really. A presence known by what was missing, rather than by actual memory of her being there. Over the next few weeks, the story came out through cops looking into everything careful. A woman named Margaret Ellis had been part of the illegal adoption ring running back then, in the Midwest during the late 1990s, taking babies from good homes and selling them off. She'd watched the Hartley family, learned when they'd be most tired, knew Michael worked late, and Jennifer would be worn out from taking care of 2 little kids all day long. She'd taken Emma that August night, drove across state lines right away to Missouri fast, where fake papers were already waiting, a new identity made up, and adoptive parents who'd paid $30,000 for a healthy baby they thought had been given up the right way. Margaret Ellis had died back in 2010, took most of her secrets to the grave with her, but enough evidence was left behind to close the case official, to mark Emma Hartley down. As found alive, to finally give the family some answers they'd been looking for forever. No one else could get in trouble now. The ring had fallen apart, other people dead, or disappeared into new lives under different names they'd never tell anyone about willingly ever. Justice in the normal sense would never really come fully or completely to them all here. But for the Hartleys, justice had taken a different shape over time, and waiting patiently. Not a courtroom thing or someone going to prison for what they'd done to them. But a daughter coming back, a family put together again, a story ending not in sadness, but in the impossible becoming possible through science, and never giving up hope at all. Our community knows that some reunions don't come wrapped up, nice and perfect with a bow. They come with mixed feelings, with happiness and grief for all the time lost, forever gone. With knowing that what got taken can never be put back exactly how it was before. But they also come with being grateful, with the miracle of connection happening against all odds. Sarah didn't move back to Ohio to live. Her life was in Portland, where she'd built it. Her identity made over 25 years couldn't just get erased or swapped out for something else brand new without time to adjust to this whole new reality she was living. But she came to visit regular, building relationships slow with the family she'd never known before. Learning about the baby she'd been, the girl she would have been, accepting the truth now, that she was both Emma and Sarah, two lives somehow put together into one person here. Jennifer and Michael learned to deal with this new reality careful and with grace shown. They'd missed her first steps, first words, first day at school, every single milestone parents dream about during those years of waiting and looking for her everywhere without stopping. But they were here for her now, for the woman she'd become despite everything that happened. That was enough. More than they'd ever hoped to have after so many years gone by. On a warm evening in August 2023, 26 years after Emma had been taken away, the Hartley family got together on the front porch of the house on Maple Street. Sarah sat between her parents, Tyler next to them, with his wife Amy and little Lily close. The porch light glowed soft above them, like it had for decades without ever stopping once. "Should we turn it off now?" Michael asked, looking at Jennifer beside him, gentle and kind. Jennifer looked at Sarah, then back at the light that had burned through all those years. 25 years of darkness, through hope that seemed stupid to other people, through nights when. Turning it off would have meant giving up completely on ever seeing their daughter again. "Yes," she said soft, her voice steady now with peace she hadn't felt in so long. "She's home now. She's finally home with us where she belongs, and always did, really." Michael stood up, walked to the switch right inside the door, and with one simple move, the light that had been a promise, a prayer, a signal in the darkness went out. Dark for the first time since 1997, its job done at last completely and fully. The porch fell into shadow, lit only by the warm glow coming from inside the house, where a family sat together, not perfect maybe, but healing, not unchanged by all the time, but changed by love that had refused to die even when hoping seemed pointless and dumb. If you've ever kept hoping for something when everyone else said to let it go, you understand what the Hartleys lived through for 25 years of their lives here. Subscribe to this channel, share this story with someone who needs to believe right now that miracles can still happen, that families can find each other again, that DNA can tell the truth across decades of silence and bring missing people home at last like it should. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from right now, because somewhere out there tonight, another family is still looking, another light is still burning through the darkness outside, and our community's support helps keep their hope alive until the moment when science finds them, or chance or God, or whatever you believe in brings their loved ones back home safe. Thank you for being here with us, for caring about these stories that remind us all that time might pass, but real love stays, that being gone isn't the end of anything. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep your light burning bright always.